Good day to everybody out there in TV land. This is Mike Hittner, an Historic Point Basse update. And today with me, special guest Phil Brown to my right. Welcome, Phil.
Well, thank you very much, Mike. Glad to be here.
Phil is president of Southwood County Historical Corporation and our local museum, Wisconsin Rapids, one of the, like we always say, like with the Wakely, one of some of the best kept secrets around. You get those people, and Phil does too, I'm sure, where they come and they say, well, how long have you been open? 40 years or 50 years,
Yeah.
And they keep getting that. But sometimes it takes a while for people to rediscover us. And so that's what we all face, I guess, in the history business sort of thing. So
Yeah, that's a very good point. This past December, we had a great Christmas tree walk at the Southwood County Historical Museum over on 3rd Street. And we had close to 700 people come through in a 2-day period.
Wow.
It was absolutely fantastic, but I was amazed at how many people had never been in the local historical museum and how many people hadn't been there since it was the T.B. Scott Public Library.
did they remember it as the T.B. Scott?
Absolutely.
People from our generation can kind of remember that.
Yeah, so they love to come in and kind of reminisce about the days when it was our local public library.
Yes, yes.
But anyway, things are going well at the Southwood County Historical Museum, Mike. Thanks for asking. And we have, during the winter months, is always a good time to reevaluate our display area. And this winter, we're redoing our lumber and logging exhibit down in the basement area,
yes.
and our depot area. And those are two very important parts of Southwood County history, as you well know. Our lumber and logging history goes back to the days of Robert Wakely.
And the Whitneys.
And the Whitney, Daniel Whitney.
Yep.
And so our logging history goes back to the 1830s, about 1836. And of course, Wisconsin was covered with giant virgin white pine timber. And we finally, the settlers were able to come in and basically clear cut the land of all the pine timber out there. And they said that timber was going to last forever, Mike. What do you figure, 50, 60 years at the most?
And then they moved on to the Chippewa Valley and then to Minnesota, and they did the same thing again.
And then they went out to Oregon and Washington.
Yes.
And so the lumber industry has been a big part of American history. But our lumber history here in central Wisconsin, I would say our golden age stretches from the 1830s to about 1890. And by that time, our lumber industry was starting to, we ran out of timber.
Yeah.
And at that point, our community saw some furniture making, and then, of course, the age of paper.
Yes.
So the paper industry had a good 100-year run. And so anyway, we're working on our new exhibit. Barry Jens, one of our board members and a very active member of the community, has taken on the task of telling the story about the logging history here in Southwood County. And it's really nice because Barry put our display together originally it was put together in the 90s, back around 1990, so 25 years ago. And then about 5 years ago, we redid it. We added to it. And Barry got a little rushed in the process, unfortunately. So we put together an exhibit that wasn't perfect for him. Well, 5 years later,
Come back to revisit it.
yep, he got a do-over.
Yes.
And so that's what we're doing this winter is we're really putting a really good story together about our logging history.
Now, have in the interim, or Barry in the interim, more exactly, has he found new information or things in the archives that he could bring out to add to what he had done previously?
That's a great question, Mike, because that's exactly what he did over the past 5 years. He has put together a PowerPoint presentation, and he's added a lot of new photos and a lot of new stories, and just really able to tell the lumber history. So it's really been 5 years in the making. And now it's finally coming to fruition this winter, and it should be up when we open our doors Labor Day weekend. Memorial Day
Memorial
weekend.
Day weekend, yeah.
I always do that.
Yeah. And what about in the same area, the depot?
And yeah, our depot, because our railroad history in Southwood County goes back to 1872 when the Green Bay and Lake Pepin Railroad came roaring through. Some of you might remember it as the Green Bay and Western.
Yes.
But 1872 was the first railroad that came in. And by 1903, the Chicago Northwestern was our last rail company to arrive.
And I think a lot of people don't realize, Phil, that maybe you and I know that this was quite a rail city.
Oh, it really was. The hub, we were right in the heart of Wisconsin, right in the middle of the state, so we had a lot of railroad lines north, south, east, west. So after the Green Bay and Western, the Milwaukee Road, then the Sioux Line, and then finally the Chicago Northwestern. So at one time we had 4 depots right here in Wisconsin Rapids. So what we've been able to do is enhance our display area that shows the old depots and some daily life at the depot while people were catching the train or either arriving or departing or freight coming in, things like that.
Oh, wonderful.
So fortunately, Marshall Bueller, charter board member of the Southwood County Historical Corp. He's celebrating 60 years as a board member this year.
Wonderful.
From 1956 to 2016.
And he's a rail aficionado.
Exactly.
Yes.
So he's been involved in it, and then another gentleman by the name of John Berg, former teacher here
From Port Edwards.
Southwood County, from Port Edwards. So that's been fun. So the logging and lumber exhibit will be new, and the depot area. And then in our Bueller Gallery, named after Marshall Bueller, we'll be working on our next exhibit, which will be the upgrade to our cranberry exhibit. So that's a topic that's very near and dear to my heart, and we're looking forward to using the Bueller Gallery as a staging ground to eventually redo our wonderful cranberry exhibit.
You're thinking, Phil, on the cranberry exhibit, the redoing approximately a 1-year, project sort of thing, be done probably by Memorial of 2017.
Exactly.
Like that.
Yeah, and that's our goal, is to be ready for our opening in Memorial Day weekend of 2017.
Wonderful. So there's a lot happening.
Oh, there's a lot of
Plus all
going on.
the other
Yeah.
exhibits, the school room and all the other, the country store and everything else
Yeah.
that's upstairs. And
So it's really been nice to get our exhibits up to snuff. So if you haven't been to the Southwood County Historical Museum in a while, come on back.
Yes.
And
You'll be
see
surprised.
what's new.
Yeah,
and
you'll
if
be
you haven't been there before, please pay us a visit. It's
Yeah.
your local history
Yeah.
that we have on display at the Historical Society.
And it's, always free, folks.
Yeah.
They
that's
certainly appreciate donations, but they don't turn anybody away. They just got a little donation box out up front there when you come in. And
Yeah.
so,
And the other nice thing that we were very proud of at the museum are our grounds that are meticulously maintained by the Southwood County Master Gardener Volunteers
Yes.
and the Evening Garden Club. I can't forget the 2 garden clubs that meticulously maintain our grounds. And makes for a great location for senior pictures, wedding pictures.
I see a
or
lot of
just
them lining up there.
Quiet night
Yeah.
to watch the river
Well,
flow.
I've seen people just picnicking on the back slope there.
Yeah,
Just
isn't that
come in
nice?
the afternoon on a late afternoon, nice sunny summer day, and they
Yeah.
just throw out a blanket and have a little picnic lunch on the side
Oh,
there.
that's wonderful.
Yeah.
We're really enjoying that. So once again, the museum is doing well. We also have some other projects going on. One project I want to mention, because our memorial clock and bell tower was dedicated 25 years ago this year. And if anybody has noticed, the hands are missing from our memorial clock and bell tower. As Paul Gross says, look, Ma, no hands.
Yes.
And
And for a clock, that doesn't work too good.
or time out.
Yes, yes.
So anyway, starting in November of 2015, we consulted with a clock master out of Minneapolis to come to.
Is that one of those things, Phil, the clock master? Is that one of those dying professions? You have to go quite a ways to find something. I know Paul, in his own way, was kind of a clock master, maybe not of the big clocks, but certainly of the wristwatches and the pocket watches for years at his business, Paul Gross Jewelers. But this clock master, I imagine, is kind of one of those things that you have to go wide to get enough business out of it.
Yeah, it's a dying breed, just like the cobbler, the shoe cobbler, and the cooper.
Yes.
A lot of these industry have fallen by the wayside. Our memorial clock and bell tower, the mechanism goes back to the 1892 Grand Rapids City Hall. We had a beautiful clock tower and with 4 faces. And when they tore the building down in the mid-50s, the city of Wisconsin Rapids kept the clock and the faces, fortunately. And when Paul discovered this back in the 1980s, he started that wonderful fundraiser. And with the help of Jerry Feith as our architect, they were able to find a new home for this historic clock from 1892.
Yes.
And anyway, we had a clockmaker up in, I believe, Ashland that did the original restoration 25 years ago. And Jerry and Paul Gross, 92 years young, by the way, but Jerry and Paul were surprised that they would still be around to see the renovation of that beautiful clock tower. So we were actually talking to a digital clock company in Indiana that has been converting a lot of those beautiful clock towers in church steeples and city halls and libraries around the country to digital mechanism. Surprise, surprise.
Yes.
Well, lo and behold, we found Rory up in Minneapolis, who still is a master clockworker.
So we can keep the original works in it.
Yep, we'll have the original works. It'll be in original working condition as it was when it first opened in 1892.
Now, is the Clockworks Phil up at Minneapolis with Rory? Is that where it is? Or
About
has he
half
come
the
down?
parts. About half the parts. Rory took half the parts back in November, and then he'll be back sometime this spring to take some of the other parts and do some of the other renovation of the clock. And by hopefully July or August of 2016, we hope to have the rededication of the clock tower, and the guest of honor will definitely be Paul Gross.
Certainly.
Yeah. So
And Jerry there maybe to cut another ribbon or something like that?
absolutely.
Because we remember, those days, Daily Drug, and Paul had worked there before he started his own business, and all this granite had come off the front of Daily Drug or whatever, and then went on the back wall, and people bought, a slot or
Very
whatever for,
good.
I don't know, it was $100 or whatever it was,
Yeah.
and you got your name or your family name or whatever engraved on there, and that was some of the money that went in. And I know there's some empty ones there. Certainly people could do that.
Yeah,
And I'm certain you're looking for some contributions if people got some, they'd like to put a bequest towards it or something in their will or something, because this clock tower now at 25 years old from 1892 and now 25 years old from its new location and being set up again, certainly, every 25 or 40 or so years is going to need a little TLC. So we got to look forward. If we could create a little fund, Phil, then maybe that would carry itself and on its by itself.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. We do have room on the memorial itself, right next to the memorial, for donors in memory of and things like that. But on this renovation, we were very fortunate that the Meade Witter Foundation stepped up.
Wonderful.
And is covering a majority, I would say 99% of the restoration costs. Not only are we have we finished the recaulking of the exterior, the tower itself,
Yes.
but we will be bringing the interior ladder up to safety standards of today. And so the clock will be done, the ladder will be done, and the exterior caulking has already been done.
Yes.
So we can't thank our friends at Meade Witter Foundation enough for their generous donation in making this possible.
They've always been very generous, especially with city projects, and that makes it very nice to keep that history alive in our community. And and preserved so that it doesn't disappear on us and that sort of thing. And a lot of times we don't appreciate this stuff till it's gone, and that's what we don't want to have happen to the clock and bell tower or any of those sort of things. Now the bell
works great.
it works. There's no issue with the bell.
Yeah, the bell works great. I tell you, and no repair needed on the bell. It was funny, Mike, when the clock and bell tower first started working in the early 1990s. All of a sudden, one night, the bell mechanism got stuck. So
Kept
bong, 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 all night long. Well, finally, somebody called the police and said, "What's going on with the clock tower?"
Sure.
And so they contacted somebody from the city that had a key, and they went up and tried to, get the bell from turn it off. Turn it off. Well, they had no idea.
Yeah.
Well, they did a little damage turning it off, and we never turned it back on. But with the restoration, we will have the clock part
the bell
working again.
Yeah, will the bell work?
And the bell will work.
Yeah.
So on the hour, at 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, it'll ring.
Whatever
up to
appropriate
2,
number would be.
And I think we can set it, hopefully we can set it so it won't ring much beyond 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
And hopefully it won't get stuck.
Yeah,
But that
because
was kinda funny.
with the plans the city has of maybe putting some housing in the downtown area, I suppose they wouldn't want
Yeah.
it ringing at 3 in the morning or
Yeah,
something
good
like
point.
that. So
And the nice thing is it's a very soft ring. It's not a big, loud clang. So it is a relatively soft ring, so it's not too obnoxious.
and it's maybe subdued a little bit because it's enclosed somewhat. That makes it a little more subdued on the sound. I don't know. It would have been interesting, that's 1892 City Hall, Grand Rapids City Hall. If we had anybody that ever recorded that bell as it was ringing in that steeple or whatever, it was more of a steeple in those days. I think.
That's a good point. I don't know of it. On one of Paul Gross's historic videos, he does have the old consolidated mill whistle that used to go off at noon every day. And he actually has a real movie of, he got up to where the whistle was, and sure enough, he has a movie in one of his videos that shows the whistle going off at noon. Absolutely a wonderful sound. And when people hear that, when they were born and raised in Wisconsin Rapids, that will bring back memories of listening to that.
And just speaking about Paul's, 25 videos he's got?
Roughly 30 historic videos.
Those are available at Southwood County. Which ones they're still existent?
Yep, all 25
All 25?
or 30, excuse me. All of them are available. All of the Paul Gross videos are available, and $20 a piece. And they're
You probably even have a
absolutely
special price if
wonderful.
somebody want to take all 30 of them.
Actually, we do. We do. We have a break at you buy 4, you get the 5th one free.
See, great.
So,
great.
So
And that's a way to kind of
5 for the price of 4.
a great way to relive your history, because Paul did a wonderful job taking all kinds of footage from different things and a lot of stills and making movies out of it.
Yeah, another really positive thing that has happened at the museum recently is we're getting a lot of people that are decluttering their lives, Mike. I'll have to get around to that one of these days.
Yes.
But anyway, we're having people stop. What's that?
When that second pole building gets full.
Yeah, when the second pole building gets full, exactly.
Yeah.
But anyway, we're having a lot of our friends here in Southwood County. For instance, we just received a wonderful gift from a gentleman that had worked at Preway for 41 and a half years.
Wow.
And he was the maintenance manager, Leo Engel, and wonderful, wonderful guy. And he brought over a 3-ring binder that was kind of Preway 101, how they made the stoves, how they made all of their appliances, step by step by step, and 8 by 10 glossy images with descriptions. It's absolutely fabulous.
Did he put it together, or was it something that some Preway people
He
put
actually
together?
received it from his supervisor, who passed it on to Leo, and then Leo passed it on to us. So not only are we able to get good glossy photos, but we were able to get Leo's recollections of what it was like to work at Preway. Very valuable information.
Yes.
And then about a month ago, we recently received a wonderful donation from Norm Coles, who worked at Consolidated Paper for 42 years. He worked in the turbine room originally and then moved on to other departments. But anyway, Leo had this wonderful picture, a huge picture of the turbine room. And so he donated it to the museum. And then I called him and met with him so he could describe this to me. Well, when he started telling me more about the 42 years at Consolidated, I ran upstairs at the museum, picked up a great big aerial photo we have of the paper mill and dam, and he pointed out every building on that particular picture, knew the name of it, knew what they did. It was absolutely fantastic. And since Norm did that for us, we're actually getting other people to come in and give their recollections of working at Consolidated.
That's good.
So it's very similar to what the Meade Witter Foundation did, and Spiros, yeah, did. The Meade Witter Foundation and the Wisconsin River Papermaking Museum has done a wonderful job with oral histories of past employees of Consolidated. So we've been able to pick up some other bits and pieces of what life was like at the paper mill.
And certainly for all those that are listening, if you're in that process of maybe cleaning out mom or dad's house and you see something that you think might be interesting to Southwood County Historical, certainly give them a call and let them know what you have, and they'll take a look at it. If they can't use it, they'll say so, but if it could be some valuable piece like they've just gotten recently from both the Pre-Way and the Consolidated point of view. And and Phil could tell us a lot more history about Prentice Weber, who evolved into Pre-Way and that whole thing, but it was a major employer in the Wisconsin Rapids area for many, many years.
Oh, it was huge. Yeah, it was huge. And we're so grateful that Leo thought of us instead of the landfill.
Yes.
A lot of good history is out at that landfill,
well,
unfortunately.
I always say the downtown is, if the archaeologists of the future will go to the landfill, they'll uncover our downtown. Unfortunately, in those days, we had the idea that since we build a new mall, we got to tear everything else down. Well, we don't necessarily have to do that, but that's what we thought at the time because of whatever we had, conceptions that we had in those days. But we live and we learn, so I mean, we'll figure it out eventually. But Phil, is there any way people can contact you? Call Lori? Call your number on the phone book?
The museum is open Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursdays from about 9 to 3. Or call us at 423-1520, and then we can arrange to meet you there. We'll try to make it as easy as possible.
And if some people are elderly out there and listening, I'm sure that Phil or Lori or somebody will come to the home. I mean, if you can't come in, if it's your homebound or something like, I'm certain that they'd be happy to come to visit you.
That's funny because we did have to make a house call recently. There was a lady who was moving out of their house in Port Edwards, and she had received a barber's chair from the barber shop at the Dixon Hotel. The Dixon used to be located right across the street from City Hall, where City Hall is now. It's now a parking lot just west of the old Johnson Hill building.
And the Wallachs building.
And the Wallachs building,
yes.
Yeah, exactly, just north of the Wallachs building. So anyway, the barber chair must weigh probably 500 or 600 pounds.
Really?
So I was able to get 3 big, strong young men from Lincoln High School to join me, and we loaded up this barber's chair, and we're now looking at doing some minor restoration to it.
What do you think you're going to do with it, or how are you going to use it?
We'll put it in the museum somewhere. It's an absolute beautiful barber's chair.
Some of those were kind of actually, when you think about it, almost like a work of art. They had a lot of chrome on it, and maybe some of the leather or something has to be refurbished, but the chrome and everything is beautiful. And those really, how would you damage it? It's built like a tank, like you said.
It really is, and it weighs about as much as a tank, too. But anyway, our Southwood County Historical Museum is blessed to have 3 living legends of local history, Mike, as you well know, starting with Paul Gross, Marshall Bueller, and of course Dave Engel,
Yes.
who also
Uncle
is
Dave.
editor. Uncle Dave, yep. And what they've contributed to local history will be enjoyed for generations to come. We're blessed to have such rich history captured. And what you folks are doing down at Historic Point Basse is absolutely amazing, too.
Yeah, thank you.
So even though we tried to get rid of some of our plows and things, so we tried to get something donated down to you, but how many plows do you need?
We have 2 and probably one more than we need, but but 2 is, we always try to tell everybody that we're kind of a living history site and not a museum, so we need, 2 or 3 crosscut saws, but we don't need 6 or 8 of them, and we need 3 size, but we don't need 10. We got 1 cradle sign, 1 regular sign, and maybe 1 that's a little different, but we don't. What a typical farmer might have had, he wouldn't have had a dozen of everything. He would have had a couple, 2 or 3 of things, and that would have been it. So.
Yeah, well, that really makes sense.
Yeah.
But,
So
but at the museum,
sometimes, whether it's Southwest County Historical Museum or Historic Point Basse, we like to look at things. Sometimes, unfortunately, we can't accept it, and we'll let you know that. We have an accession policy, like we can take things, but we can't take everything, unfortunately. But certainly give us a ring, either one of us. If you got something that's a period appropriate to that, that we certainly would look at.
Yeah, definitely think of us.
And don't worry about us competing, because we share a lot of things.
Yeah,
a lot of times Phil will call up and say, he's got some extras of this, and I'll call up and I say, do you need one of those? And that's a sort of collaboration that we have in the communities here between Port Edwards, Nakusa, and Wisconsin Rapids. We do a lot of collaboration like that.
Yeah, and as a matter of fact, if a recent potential acquisition came to us and we couldn't take it, but we found a home for it, actually down in Mount Horeb at the Duluth Trading Company.
Oh, wonderful.
So they have a wonderful tool display. But we couldn't use it at the local museum, but they definitely could use it down at Mount Horeb.
Yeah, and
so we have some connections.
In La Crosse, we were going through one of the old major department stores in La Crosse, and it used to have a couple of shops in it, but Duluth Trading Company, that's going to be their flagship store in La Crosse, one of those old department stores.
Great.
I talked to the owner of the store, and he says they're renting the whole downstairs, which, like our old Johnson Hills, is a lot of square footage.
Yeah.
And I'm sure they'll have a lot of antiques and different things to go in there to kind of create the ambiance that they're trying to create. So.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's what I think we'll see more of in the future, and Wisconsin Rapids too, hopefully, and that sort of thing will be happening.
Yeah, these make wonderful display items, and so what we're really enjoying is a more modern display of our old logging tools and things like that. So we're displaying them in a new manner, which is really exciting.
Yes, wonderful.
And good captions, so captions are very important.
Yes,
There aren't many people that remember what a pike pole is.
Right, yes.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Phil, for coming on today. Best wishes to Southwood County Historic Museum and to you guys in general, and you do a great job, and we're happy to be in the same communities with each other and collaborate, and it's a love fest to speak of. So
I agree. We're all in it together.
Yeah.
And so thank you, Mike. Thank you very much. And best of luck to you at Historic Point Basse as well.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, folks, for listening.